Nostalgia represents a look back over my work for the past 5 decades. It starts with painting there to your left when I was 15, and it continues to the present with my latest works being shown in the last vault of the gallery here. Basically, I want to show what I have accomplished over the years. This is not all the work I have done, but it is all my work, all the work I've got in my possession, and many have sold and given away. So I wanted to show the town what I've been up to all the years.
Has it been an eye-opener for you, though, to see your works on display together, to see that development over the years?
Yeah, it's been very interesting because I'm able to tell the different changes of styles that have come over the years and how they are linked one with the other. I usually work in series of work in the main, and I can see a development of colour, of line, of drawing, so it's been a lesson for me to see them all together in the same room, yeah.
What's influenced that development? I imagine that it's been different things at different times in your life.
To talk about influences and inspiration is not easy because the first thing I have to say is that I didn't have a clue that I wanted to be a painter. One day my father took me to Lenny Mifsud house, la descansada Lenny, no? And he told me that I was going to go to a house twice a week to learn to draw and paint. So I did, and for 5 years I went. And being there, something stuck, no? And then when I was 16, I stopped going, did GCSEs, GCSEs, no? At the time. But what I noticed was that I kept on doing it. I didn't lose the interest. So when I was in London when I was 19, I remember looking out for the Tate, looking out for the museums. So there was something that was making sense inside of me. And I would see something and I would say, I can do that. And I would go home and try it. So the interest developed and I started to get books and read. And it's always been with me.
Okay, Ambrose, so we're in this part of the gallery which represents your most recent work. So in terms of where you are as an artist, how would you describe that situation? I mean, who is Ambrose, the artist, now?
Right, well, it seems to me that it's always been the same. Because even though I produce different things, the idea inside is always the same. It's only an idea. How do I best express this idea? So I still find myself thinking that thought. The ideas are different, but the approach is the same. The thing is now I find myself thinking in terms of multimedia. Instead of limiting myself to sculpture, to clay and oil paint, now I think in terms of digital imaging, photography, installation, movies, found objects, appropriations. So I have managed to open myself up to more ways of expressing myself.
Is that much more exciting for you?
Well, it is exciting when you have to learn a new media. When you learn how to use that media, it becomes another tool in your bag. But what it does do is, I managed to be more appropriate and more focused on what I'm trying to say. So if the next work I'm going to do is a photograph of 2 figures. And it's a photograph because the intention is to show the action of this figure. I don't need to paint it. I don't need to spend 10 hours painting that. I can get a much stronger image by producing a photograph. So I'm going to produce a photograph because the photograph will give me a much more powerful image than I spend all the time painting. So every message has its own medium, and what I struggle with most is finding the right medium to balance out the message I want to give. And in this room is the latest offerings I've got. Basically.
Okay, so let's talk about this offering, Mary's Washing Day, using a religious theme and a very unique representation.
Yeah, basically this is a crucifixion in a, you can say, a contemporary way, in the sense that it's seen through the eyes of Mary. I always want to do a crucifixion. It's a subject which I think needs to be told again and again and again because of the significance of it's an ageless story. So I always feel that I want to talk about the crucifixion at some stage. But this time I wanted to do it from an outsider's point of view, as it were. So what we're looking is a typical day in Mary's life when this could have been just after the crucifixion, When he's done the job and he's been buried, they removed all his clothing, she takes it home to give it a wash. Basically that's it. And so these are the props of the act that he performed, the action that he performed, the job that he performed, and I just want to bring it to the mind of the audience through the eyes of the mother, basically. I'm sure it's hopefully more than that, but that's as much as I can at this stage explain. You know?
I mean, how important is for you the relationship between the viewer and your pieces?
It's all important. Without the viewer, there's no point of making art. Without the viewer, the artist works for the spectator, the artist works for the audience, the artist needs attention. I don't know of any artist. I know there's a curious thing about an artist I've met, and it's so curious because this artist works in such a way that when you look at the paintings, you think they're photographs. And I was taken in, and look, that looks like a photograph. Then I went right close up, it's a painting. So then I wondered why a painter wants to look like a photographer. Because I think with photography it's very impersonal. It's all done through the medium of a lens, yeah? But with the painting, no, it's very tactile, it's very personal. And what I ended the final analysis I did was that this artist is so shy, but wanting to show the work, and they have this dichotomy within themselves, that they want to show the work because they're artists, they want to tell you what they've done, but they want to tell you as if they were anonymous and invisible. And this is the thing about art and artists, that we want to talk to the public, we want to tell the public. It's all about communication, and we just show our work and take it on the chin, whatever comes, yeah?
I don't think anybody would describe you as a shy artist. You definitely come across as confident. I mean, your work's very impactful. You're not afraid to show the grotesque side of life, is that?
No, I'm not afraid, because if I deny my inspiration, I've got nothing. You see, people think that I think of ideas, and it's not that way. It's ideas come to me. The inspiration comes to me, the work comes to me, and it becomes all of a sudden it becomes so important. This photograph I want to do it's so important that I have to do it. It's going to say something, and I have to do it, and I have to do whatever I need to do to create the photograph. So yeah, I would say whatever. Some of the messages I've got in this room are very heavy and very strong, but I'm afraid that they've come to me. I'm going to talk about them. I don't enter into pornography because I don't think that's a subject for art. But the rest, apart from that, I talk of battered girls, I talk of suicide, I talk of pain and suffering, and I also talk about the fullness of life. So hopefully I'm touching everything, yeah?
Ambrose, another example of just how varied this exhibition is. Here we have an appropriation work, The Man of the Moon. So
see, this is an appropriation from Rodin's The Thinker. I have been thinking about the thinker, and I've been working with the idea of the thinking person. No? Basically, it's a very simple work about the thinker being detached from reality. So the thinker's on the moon, it's a cartoon moon. But the fact that the moon is cutting his bottom, or his arse, is bringing them down to reality again. So no matter how much philosophizing, thinking we do, we have to contend with our daily lives every day. And I wonder how much our thinking actually influences our daily life. It's around there somewhere.
It's experimenting with those ideas.
It's
really.
experimenting with those ideas, yeah, questioning the role of thinking, the role of philosophy in real life, everyday life, yeah? How much does it affect everyday living, knowing all these books on philosophy, yeah? So that's about it.
Politics also coming into some of your works in this exhibition, and the Gibraltar question obviously having an influence.
Yeah, I'm turning my mind to politics, especially local politics, and I've wanted to make a few comments, a few critical comments on it, in the vein of Goya and Rowlands in England. This one represents the perpetual question that we have, the Gibraltar question I call it, that we live in tension between the English and Spanish governments. And for me, we've been torn in the middle, and basically it's symbolic of our status quo in Gibraltar, basically, yeah.
And we're seeing little hints here and there, a Guardia Civil as well in another of your works.
Yes,
What are
the
you
Guardia
questioning
Civil,
there?
the Guardia Civil is a very topical subject, I would say. No, we are experiencing visits from foreign powers into our land, and they're getting away with it without reprimand. And I just wanted to make a point that we say no concessions, but if other powers come into our land without permission, and we don't sort of charge them with anything, take them to account for their actions, we are giving them a concession in that sense, yeah? So I want just to make a point of that the situation as I see it, yeah? Yeah.
So art's then a platform for many different issues.
Absolutely, the artist is a license to touch any subject he wants to touch. I mean, Goya did it with his Capricios and his Desastres de Guerra. Rollins did it in England in the 17th century, and so I mean, cartoonists do it every day in the newspapers. So
how does Ambrose do it here with the working girl?
No, this is totally different work. This talks about the media and how, especially the BBC. The BBC is seen in many quarters as a nanny TV, where they try to enhance your living, they try to tell you how to live, yeah? And the government does that very, very strongly as well. They feel that they have to teach people how to eat, the 5 foot and veg, etc., 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 yeah? But then it breaks down when the families, the poor families, don't have the money to be able to live in that way. In this case, I'm talking about a single mom who's pregnant again, but she has to make a living. And she's taken up being a working girl, and all that means for her, because she has to feed the children or brothers or whatever. I'm talking about, the human condition. This is mainly my subject. I seem to not be able to wander very far from the human condition, which I'm content with. This is what I've got, this is what I say, yeah?
You lived in the UK for 22 years.
Yes,
I mean,
that's right.
you moved over to Gibraltar 5 years ago.
That's right.
What has that transition meant for you and for your art?
You mean the period I spent in the UK?
That change, that move to Gibraltar.
Right. I have managed to continue doing what I did in England because I managed to find a space for me to continue working. After I finished studies in England, I became a college lecturer in a part-time basis, so that gave me the time to continue with my work. Came here, was lucky enough to get a studio. I'm still teaching now, and I am able to keep on working. So the transition has been more from a wet, grey country to a nice sunny one. It hasn't changed my work at all, except that now I'm beginning to think more to do with public consciousness. I've always been a very interior artist, looking for inspiration within myself. I am not looking for inspiration outside of myself, so I'm looking at politics and things like that.
What about here? Again, I imagine it's the human condition that captured you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. This is a work that I started with a few sketches, and the idea of somebody clutching their head attracted me quite a bit. So I pursued the subject, and then I started to work with the idea of being blind, deaf and dumb, where certain people in society do not want to engage with society. They are seeing what's happening around them, but they'd rather stay within their shell.
Ignorance, perhaps?
No, not ignorance. This is not ignorance, because the person is blinding himself. The person is covering his ears himself or herself. So this is a social. It's an act. It's a conscious act of not wanting to interact with what's happening out there, and just being. And maybe they have the power to change things, but
a withdrawal, perhaps.
A withdrawal, yes, because they're very comfortable. I'm okay, Jack. I don't want to know, and that's basically the basic message there.
Ambrose, this represents a turning point in your career, this theme, the move to enamels. So what happened here?
See, I found myself thinking that the oil paints I was using at the time, I got too accustomed to them. I was repeating myself. I started to use them in the same way all the time. Really lost the excitement for oil paints. I've been doing them for 20 years, something like that. So I started to look for a new way, or a new paint, a new medium. And I had done some experiments at the university using enamels mixed up with the oils. And this time I decided to use the enamels by themselves. which posed a big challenge because they cannot be used as pasty paint, they are liquid paint. So I found myself having to find a way of creating my images using sticks, pouring the paint onto the canvas, working flat on the floor, and instead of brushing the paint on, I would move the canvas around the surface, the paint across the surface of the canvas until I got the images that I want. Even when I left the image, I never knew how they were going to end because the interaction of paints kept on overnight. So next morning I would go into the studio and see, well, has it worked or not? And that was quite exciting to see what effect I could get. So I did a series of paints using that technique. I talked about the battering of child battering, very sort of harrowing subject that. In the main, my subjects again are the same, the human figure, the human condition. I talk about saints, I talk about disabilities. Basically, I always talk about the emotional side of the human being or the spiritual side of the human being, because I believe that there are three of us all the time. When we walk our physical bodies from A to B, we carry emotions with us and we carry our spirit with us. We might be at work and our emotions might be somewhere else. That is us as well. When we are confronted with making decisions, I think we enter into a spiritual situation of morality. Do we speak the truth? Do we subvert the truth? So the three of us all the time. There's not only the physical aspect of us. And my work concentrates mainly on the emotional and spiritual side of the human being, yeah.
How important has it been for you to sort of continue exploring these different ways of expression through a new media?
Very important, because if I don't, I find myself repeating myself. And that's one thing I don't want to do, is repeat what I have done well before, and endless repeating, because it becomes boring, it doesn't become challenging anymore. I believe there is a beauty to be talked about. The thing is, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where to find it, but I know it exists, because there is a beauty in me, there is a beauty in everything. Now, the concept of beauty changes all the time. In different epochs, beauty has been different things. So I am trying to find that piece of beauty and show it. I still haven't done so, because somehow for me, when I try to create a beautiful thing, the image that I do is not such a beautiful image. So there's always this problem about creating beauty. There's an example I always use about a painting by Rubens. And Rubens did a painting called The Rape of the Sabine Women. And to see the painting, it's a gorgeous painting. It's a beautiful painting. The anatomy is beautiful, the colors are beautiful, the garments are gorgeous. And you're looking, but you're saying, but the subject is a rape. This painting should not be beautiful. So
there's that contradiction almost.
Exactly. What do you do with that? It should be an horribly painted subject matter, but it is a beautiful painting. And this, I think, is the dilemma of art. One is always striving. Ultimately, that is what my goal would be, to paint beauty. I don't know how, but keep on trying, basically. Yeah.
We talked earlier about the importance of the relationship between the viewer and the canvas or the work of art. I mean, how much have you learned, though, from viewers' feedback and what they've had to say about your exhibition?
Well, it's very interesting, because people see my work things that I never intended. But then when I do a work, I'm only half conscious about what I'm doing. I think a lot of my work comes from my subconscious. And I'm hoping it's not just my subconscious. I hope this is not just a reflection of my psyche. I hope I'm touching some more universal consciousness here. And I'm talking about a general situation, I'm sure there's a lot of this that reflects my own nature, my own traumas, yeah? But I'm hoping that it's more than just my own traumas. So when people react to my works, I have to listen carefully and say, gosh, amazing what they've seen in it. And I never intended, I never saw in it. So it's always an enlightening experience for me, yeah.
Ambrose, we're here at the beginning with your first two works.
Yes.
I mean, who was Ambrose the artist? What direction were you taking? And did you know where you were going?
Not a clue. I just knew that I was interested in Picasso and in Manet. And my first work that I did by myself, without the aid of school teachers or teachers at all, was this one, was the Red Nude. And I pinched it from one of the Picasso paintings. He had a figure similar to that. And I didn't think there was anything wrong with just copying it, because I thought I could. I said to myself, I can do that, I can copy that. And I did. And then the next one was the Acta, also based on Picasso. And I don't know, just a question of showing my dad, look what I can do, Dad, you know, that type of thing. And then I kept the interest going. And what I need to say here is that the condition of the artist today, that I found myself with certain amount of skill, which I think I had. But the problem was not so much how to paint something, but what to paint. That was what I wondered a lot about. And at the time I was listening to Deep Purple most of the time. So I saw it as okay to illustrate their lyrics. So this set of work, which I sold in London, is illustrating the lyrics of Deep Purple.
You can see some surrealism as well, ideas and concepts.
Yes. I've been looking at Dalí, I was looking at different sort of avant-garde painters at the time. And of course I had to pinch ideas from everywhere, like we all do, no? When we start.
Picking up on a point that you just made, I mean, the changing role of the artist, that's something sort of that's preoccupied you, because...
Yes.
I mean, who does the artist serve nowadays?
Exactly, that is exactly the situation we have. That came about after the French Revolution, when they became citizens in France. Yeah, they were not they were citizens, they belonged to the Republic. Courbet was one of the first artists to start to say, I want to paint what I see, I want to paint the people I know, I want to paint what I experience on a daily basis. Before that, the artists were servants to the crown, or to the church, or to the aristocracy. But from then onwards, the painter broke links with the establishment and became a thinker in his own right, which had his inconveniences, because then he was cut off from patronage. Yeah, and this is where we find ourselves today, that we find ourselves with skills, and we have to see what do we want to talk about. And today, every painter is his own philosopher, is his own muse, and basically they go inside of themselves and speak what they experience. Yeah, and as I found myself in that situation as well, not knowing what to do, so looking inside of me to express myself.
And you had some time to think, as it were, and in your early 30s you went to university.
That's right, yeah.
To do your degree. That's right. And this is part of the work.
That's right, this is my degree. Present. This is the preparation for my degree for my final show. And it all starts with the drawings there on the end of the wall.
How much did you develop during this time from your early work?
Quite a lot, big jump, because the beauty of university for me was that I had 3 years to do what I wanted. Very little input from the tutors, except when I needed them. They left me to my own devices. So for me it was perfect, because at that age when I went, I knew what I wanted, and I used the time to the best convenience that I could. They stem from this set of drawings, which I did waiting for trains on the way home. And from there they developed into paintings, and eventually to the final degree piece, which I have not got, because I don't have a good enough photograph to show. But I remember that I worked on the actual walls of my studio, and I worked on the floor of my studio. So the paintings were on the wall and on the floor. And I remember the cleaner woman coming to clean my floor, and I had to stop her. They go, no, please don't, this is part of the work.
Don't interfere.
Yeah, please, yeah. So, yeah, that was a big change for me. Those 3 years really concentrated my efforts. I didn't have to think about making a living. So it was brilliant, yeah.
So how happy are you, Ambrose, with the nostalgia? It's the last few days of exhibiting.
I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased because I've seen all my work together, which is amazing to see. And I'm very happy with the response of the public. And this is something I set myself to do, and I managed to accomplish it. So yeah, I'm very pleased with the way things have turned out. Yeah.